Luckily, on all this breaking news on a Friday night, from Marjorie Taylor Greene resigning from Congress to that love fest that we all just witnessed inside the Oval Office, my top political sources are here on tonight's breaking news. And Harry Ensign, you're laughing very loudly. John King, you've covered the White House. I mean, dang. Between that, because it is a big picture. It's not just what we saw in the Oval Office. I mean, that with what we just learned in the last few moments that Marjorie Taylor Greene is out. I mean, if I told you a year ago that Trump and Zohran Mamdani would be like this, and Marjorie Taylor Greene would be leaving Congress because of President Trump, you
have shared my gin and tonic.
would have told me I was drinking.
Look, it's great to be with you all because of our shared love and affection, to quote the mayor-elect of the world turned upside down. It's amazing. It's remarkable breaking news. Look, we have lived in an age of political disruption, really since the election of Obama, but especially since Trump and the MAGA movement came along. So on the one hand, we shouldn't be surprised by disruption and disaffection and things changing, and there's no real political parties have no real center anymore. I don't mean center in the middle of the electorate. I mean they don't have any core because Trump has redefined the Republican Party. The Democratic Party's in a search and who are we mission right now. But this is still mind-blowing in the sense, let's start with Marjorie Taylor Greene. My biggest question is, what next? She just broke with the president on the Epstein files and won. She says he is tone deaf on these affordability issues, and guess what? She's right. Maybe the president had a shift today with the mayor-elect of New York, but up until this point, that's why his approval ratings are in the tank. So she has said up to today that she was not going to run statewide in Georgia. You know, people roll their eyes and they laugh and they say, well, when I say, well, maybe she's going to run for president. But again, Donald Trump could never win the Republican nomination in 2016, and then he could never beat Hillary Clinton, of course, and he could never be president again after January 6th. Barack Obama's not going to be president of the United States. That's never going to happen. That's what they said then. Mamdani can't beat Cuomo and be the mayor of New York City. So we live in the age of improbable stories in our politics because the ground beneath everybody is shifting so much. I don't know what she's going to do next. I do know one thing. Number one, she's not going to stay quiet. You know her. That's who she is. So what she decides. And number two, this is a granular Washington issue. Speaker Johnson has less than one-hand majority. When she goes away, right? When she goes away in January, that's another -1. I think it leaves them with +2 or +3. They don't get too much done heading into the midterm year anyway, but that's hard.
To John's point about her not staying quiet, I mean, she released a 10-minute video explaining this. And in part of it, she says, loyalty should be a two-way street and that we should be able to vote our conscience and represent our district's interests because our job title is literally representative. And America first should mean America first and only Americans first. And then she wrote this, and this is, I mean, she is directly calling out President Trump. She says, standing up for American women who were raped at 14, obviously they would be girls, trafficked and used by rich, powerful men should not result in me being called a traitor and threatened by the President of the United States, whom I fought for.
We are starting, in my opinion, to see the real world consequences of what we're seeing in the polling. That is cracks, actual cracks in Trump's Republican support. His net approval rating amongst Republicans is down over 20 points since January. We are seeing a president who had for months tried to ensure that the Epstein files were not going to be released, despite the fact that his approval rating on the Epstein files was south of 50%, despite the fact that the vast majority of Republicans wanted those Epstein files released. And more than that, what you saw was Marjorie Taylor Greene playing a little bit of political punditry, right? Saying that the Republican Party is likely to lose the House of Representatives come 2026. That, of course, is what we see in all the polling data as well. This, in my opinion, has been the 10 worst days of polling that Donald Trump has had throughout his entire second term. And Marjorie Taylor Greene resigning and stating what she did, in my mind, sort of puts the capstone on it and also puts the capstone on a day in which the President of the United States met with Zohran Mamdani and that love fest. To quote the movie Tootsie, this is one nutty hospital.
Jamal, I want to know what Democrats are thinking about this nutty hospital, as Harry so lovingly puts it. But we have David Urban here. David, I mean, I've been talking to a few Republicans tonight in the last 30 minutes since this got announced. They are genuinely stunned by this news from Marjorie Taylor Greene.
Caitlin, I listened and watched the full 10 minutes right before I sat down because, like you, it's hard to wrap your head around it. You know, John gets it right, and everyone knows this. You know, this is an administration that superlatives, unprecedented this, this is truly an unprecedented day where his biggest supporter by far, I mean, I can't imagine anyone who's taken more heat for Donald Trump since she's been in office than Marjorie Taylor Greene, to her own detriment, has been, categorized as crazy, nut job, et cetera. today yet she is castigated, thrown aside as a traitor. And as you correctly pointed out, he's embracing, Zohran Mamdani, a democratic socialist mayor of the city of New York, like they're fraternity brothers. I mean, it's crazy. And some of her verbiage is incredibly biting. She's not going to sit around like a battered wife and defend the president when an impeachment comes in a few months. I mean, it is some pretty vitriolic language on her part. And, if you're the president, if you're Speaker Johnson, you can't be feeling too good tonight as you go to bed.
Yeah, David, I mean, her likening herself to a battered wife was very jarring, obviously, as you listen to that. But that's how she was essentially saying, because I think a thing to drive home, and maybe she is running for office in 2028 or for who knows what. But I mean, this is a genuinely shocking moment, I think, for her in terms of the falling out and how hard that has hit her since this has happened. I mean, we talked to people close to her who were describing the death threats that were escalating and what this looked like, David. I mean,
listen, it makes the Elon fight look like a pillow fight, right? President Elon, this is a joke compared to that, right? I mean, the president has said some pretty sharp things at different people at different times, and most people brush it off. Obviously, Marjorie Taylor Greene had no intention of brushing it off, and she said, look, she threw open the window and said, enough. I'm not going to put up with this anymore. I
mean, Jamal Simmons, what are Democrats saying right now?
Well, first of all, to quote Don King, only in America, right? We all never thought anything like today was going to happen. I was on CNN on Sunday with Dana Bash when she was
she interviewed her. Yeah,
that's when she was interviewing Marjorie Taylor Greene, and I will tell you, everybody in the green room had their mouths open when she apologized for participating in the toxicity. Nobody expected her to do that, and now we see where this has led today. She's had a week of attacks. Jason Crow, I was just looking at online. Jason Crow has been publishing death threats that he's been getting because all those members and senators who came out and put that video out telling the military not to break the law have been now getting threats. So it's interesting that we're seeing the president and his party participating in the kind of violent, vitriolic stuff that we were all trying to disavow just a few months ago. And so now we're seeing that coming from the president and his allies. And I think that's really tough. But then today, the president shows up with Zohran Mamdani, and he's like soft and cuddly. It's an amazing about face.
Yeah, I have also Democratic Congressman Ro Khanna of California here with me. And Congressman, obviously Marjorie Taylor Greene was one of the Republican women who helped you and Thomas Massie get the Epstein bills into law this week. President Trump had to sign it because they held on and did that discharge petition. And obviously that is one of the huge areas where she broke with the White House in recent weeks and months. What's your reaction to this breaking news tonight that she's resigning from Congress in January?
Well, first of all, she's shown a lot of courage on Epstein. But I also think it's important that we look beyond the caricatures about her. I've gotten to know her quite well over the last 5 months. This idea that the only reason she's acting the way she is because Donald Trump refused to endorse her in a Senate race is just not the complete truth. I mean, maybe it's a small factor, but she genuinely believes against war. She was an anti-war person. She genuinely thinks AI is a real threat to jobs. She genuinely was moved by the survivors. I mean, she's been in tears with the survivors. And she probably has more populist instincts than J.D. Vance, who's the front runner on the Republican side. It would not surprise me if she runs in 2028. And I actually think she's more in touch with some of the populism that fueled Donald Trump's rise than Trump and Vance are these days.
So it wouldn't surprise you if Marjorie Taylor Greene runs for president?
It would not. I mean, I don't know. I haven't talked to her about that. But I will tell you this. She is in touch with a populist element of the Trump base that feels increasingly abandoned by Donald Trump. And and she really speaks about forgotten Americans. And she will tell you she was for Donald Trump when no one thought Donald Trump had a chance. When CNN probably wasn't even covering Donald Trump.
I actually think that's a great point. She is someone who has been ride or die for Trump. But what is your view of his embrace of Zohran Mamdani in the way he did today? And I mean, every reporter in that room hit every sensitive touch point between the two of them. And he was defending Zohran Mamdani and sidestepping the issues and even said, yeah, you can call me a fascist. It's easier than having to explain it to people. But to see that moment parallel with her resigning, someone who was so loyal to him. I wonder what that says to you.
Well, two things. One, Donald Trump's a good politician. I mean, it would be foolish not to say that. And he has a sense of humor, and he likes people who win. And Zohran Mamdani is a winner. Donald Trump also has a populist instinct. As someone who co-chaired Bernie Sanders' campaign, you saw it. Trump said there are a lot of things that Bernie voters that he agreed with. And what Zohran Mamdani has is a boldness. And I think, frankly, Trump respects that. I went out and campaigned for Zohran Mamdani when few people were. And Zohran Mamdani didn't move his issues. He was not afraid of standing for what he believed in, and he was not afraid to request a meeting with Donald Trump. And I just think we live in a populist age. People throw around the word authenticity. I actually think that's a bit cliched. What it is really about is boldness and risk-taking and courage. And Mamdani had that. And even though I disagree with him, Trump had that when he ran. And I just think Trump recognized that in Mamdani.